The focus of the discussion will be on the role of technology vendors in the ICT industry in the Middle East. We will try to leverage as much as possible on the experience of our distinguished speakers, either because they are operating in the region or because they are part of regional or international organizations that can leverage at best also on experience from other countries. We believe that technology vendors have a very important role in the region in the development of ICT solutions. The questions that I will ask are related really on the role that they can have in the region, also complementary to all the other industry players, whether they are telco operators, service providers, content providers, system integrators, or even regulatory bodies. We heard all throughout the day that there are a lot of challenges for the region and for the telco operators because of regulatory issues of declining revenues and investments opportunities. We would like to focus the discussion more on the solutions in terms of, okay, which are the right models in the region to best address the opportunities related to a growing young population with a high adoption of smartphones. There is also a broadband availability in the region, even with the countries with fiber to the home, and an overall rich region in terms of economic growth. So the first question that I would ask to each of you is on how do you see the role of the technology vendors that you represent or you are working with in your organization as for the development of ICT solutions in the region? And with ICT solutions, we refer to both B2B or B2C type of solutions, whether it's M-payments, whether it's FAS, whether it's e-government, whether it's e-commerce, M-advertising, all of them that are part of the growing revenues opportunities in the region, and also to best match the requirements of the customers. So let me start with Mr. Samer of Globitel, and please, if you can say a few words about your company, that would be great.
Hi, and thank you for staying with us until this time. My name is Samer. I represent Globitel. Globitel is a Jordanian technology provider established about 17 years ago, providing solutions mainly for telecom solutions for mobile operators and also for call centers. So to answer the questions about the role of technology vendors, I think there are many roles, but mainly what I want to focus on are two roles as enablers for the service providers, or at least for Globitel's area of the technology, enabling service providers to provide the highest quality of service in the area of specialization that we do, enabling them to offer new services, and enabling the infrastructure to provide, to be more efficient, to provide better customer care, and so on. So enabling the operators both to offer their services and to be more efficient, and to serving their customers better. And the second, and I think more important role that we play or can play in the ecosystem is as innovators. As was discussed this morning by the industry panel, innovation is extremely important, especially now that the market dynamics are shifting and revenues are flattening and all these challenges. So finding new revenue streams or new ways where the operators can be more efficient becomes more and more important. And I think this is a very important role that technology providers can work with the service providers to play that role and to help answer these forthcoming challenges.
Thanks for your initial comment. Let me ask also our operator in the panel, Zain, to have your point of view about the role that technology providers can have in best supporting the telecom operators in the provisioning of services. I'm not just referring to the basic roles of IT or network platforms, but more in terms of providing additional value-added services, whether it's for the business or the consumer segment.
Okay, very good evening. My name is Yousef Mutawe. I am the Chief Technology Officer of Zain Jordan. Answering this, really we need to understand the shift that happened in the telecom sector. I believe the old traditional telecom ecosystem have been changed and is now obsolete. The ecosystem itself has been changed from being led by vendors to be led by consumer. Today, all the market or the services are led by consumer, are not anymore led by vendors. So in order for the technology providers to play the right role right now, they need to dive deep into the requirements and the needs of the consumers themselves. And I do believe this is an opportunity for the domestic technology providers to play a bigger role in that rather than depending on the international technology providers. Most of the services that are needed today are localized ones. And you need to build into the localized tradition and the localized service in order to deliver a value to the customer. This really requires a domestic players for technology in order to understand that and to benefit that. In addition to that, we are still immature in terms of network economy. Saying that does mean that we have still a long way to reach the e-things and to reach the e-government and to reach the e-health. All of that requires really a providers who can really expedite the transition into that phase. And I do believe there is a big chance in the region to play that role and to deliver adequate services on top of what we have. Today, in our region, in the Arabic region as a whole, we reached a stage where our customers are connected. And this is a true statement everybody can witness and can live in. But at the same time, we don't have a connected and network economy. In order to reach there, you need players in between. And this is the role the players of technology they have to play, and they have to deliver the right services at the right time at an adequate cost in order to expedite the process.
Thanks. If you can pass the microphone to Mr. Peter Ford from Cisco. I mean, what's your view based on the international experience of Cisco? How do you see the region in comparison with other emerging or developed geographies in terms of the ability of the operators jointly with the technology providers to offer ICT solutions in the market?
Thank you. Well, I think there are three common themes, both for this region and other regions around the world, in the development of the ICT ecosystem. And the first is the availability of capital for investment and growth and the development of new services. And in the past 3 years, Cisco Capital has invested $1.5 billion in this region. The second, which I think is particularly pronounced in Africa and Middle East, is ICT skills and the availability of ICT skills in the region to the technology providers, SMBs, and so on. And that's why networking academies, we have 1,600 networking academies across the region with about 500,000 students attending those networking academies, are such an important part of what we do. But the third thing is really about understanding the industry transitions, and those are the same around the world. The same challenges that my colleague here from Zain is facing are the same that are faced with service providers in Latin America, Central and Eastern Europe, or even North America and Western Europe. And they just happen at different paces and at different times, but broadly they're the same things. And those trends right now, or transitions, if we look at the rise of the on-demand model, so cloud, and how service providers position themselves to take advantage of the opportunity that cloud presents. If we look at the various presentations we've had over the course of today that have talked about the growth of video, and video is going to be everywhere. I think the various projections are that by 2015, 91% of global internet traffic will be video. If you look at service providers around the world and how they're exploiting carrier-grade Wi-Fi technology to either offload some of their 3G and LTE traffic or to provide new monetization alternatives. I was very interested by Ericsson's presentation earlier with their data projections. But one of my predictions is that increasingly we're going to see that data usage switch to Wi-Fi. Of the people here in the room today, I would imagine more people are using Wi-Fi for their mobile data than 3G. And the final piece that we see around the world, and I think is actually happening quicker in Africa and Middle East, is the development of what we call two-sided business models, B2B to C. So instead of monetizing between the service provider and the customer, it's about utilizing your understanding of the customer to build different commercial models with the over-the-top players like Google, Amazon, and others. And I'm working with service providers already in the region who are looking at their position in the big data ecosystem or how they develop targeted advertising offers. So I think bring those three things together, capital, ICT skills, and an understanding of the market transition. And I completely agree that it's about local expertise and understanding. You can't just apply something from one part of the world and take it into another country.
Thanks for this. Mr. Girish from Tech Mahindra. Let's talk a bit about, of course, the role of Tech Mahindra, because you have a pretty strong specialization in the telecom sector, but also in terms of competence and capabilities in the region. How do you see your role in supporting or working together with the telecom operators in the region, in helping them providing solutions for B2B or B2C offerings?
Thank you. So Tech Mahindra has been present in the region for the last 10 plus years. And we do service a number of operators. So we've also seen a huge amount of shift in the way, what operators did 10 years ago and what they are looking at right now. So one of the key things that we have is the global experience of working with the markets out of Europe and US. So we are seeing a big shift in a number of operators who are starting to monetize most of their investments around data. There is also planning that's being done by operators to look at large bids in a number of these countries where they want to actually bundle external solutions with internal solutions. So we have had this experience in the past elsewhere of creating solutions with large operators, and that is the specialized skills that people like Tech Mahindra can bring into the region. At the end of the day, it is all a connected world. So whether you look at the overall markets, there is a huge amount of potential, whether it is a location-based system or a fleet management system, and these are things which can be done very easily by the operators and their local partners within the ecosystem itself.
Thanks for the comments. Mr. Nael Salah, you have an incredible CV, given that you have worked with telecom operators, you have created your own successful companies. You are also working, if I understand well, in your company across various verticals: telecom, insurance, enterprise, education, internet. So, and I'm sure you are working in the Middle East and other regions, Africa and else. How do you see Middle East evolving, and what's the role of your organization in supporting the operators in the ICT development?
Thank you very much. I would like to say a few words first about our company, ESKADENIA Software. As you mentioned, ESKADENIA is a Jordanian company which was created less than 13 years ago in Jordan. We have around 200 employees, all Jordanians, and all so far located in Jordan and working out of Jordan to serve around 100 customers in 30 countries. 90% of our sales are exported from Jordan. So most of our business actually is in Europe, Middle East, and Africa so far. We work with many different areas. Telecommunications is one of them. We started working with telecom products from day one. We have many systems like customer care systems, billing systems, messaging, value-added services, mobile applications recently. We have other business units like insurance, where we have a fully fledged portfolio of products for insurance companies. Also for education, universities and schools, and enterprise products like ERP systems, CRM systems, automation, process automation, document management systems, portals, and so on. So we actually have many, many different products. And this is based on a very conscious strategy that we have put from the beginning. If we talk about our role, I would like to say that I would like to see our role as being an example for new companies in the Middle East and Africa who could have the courage to establish themselves and dream big. Our objective is to be a global company providing software products to many, many different countries, not only in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, but even to the Americas, to Asia, Australia, and so on. I could never understand why we do not have technology companies in the Middle East. I worked at Ericsson for more than 17 years, and I have seen many people originally from the Middle East having really very responsible jobs, both in the technology departments and sales and product management and so on. And thinking about the Middle East, I see that we actually can have a very good environment for making export-oriented business. But this has not been the case. We don't have so far an export-oriented business in the Middle East. Our economy has, in many countries, been relied very much on exports of oil or other ores that we find due to the huge area that we have in the Middle Eastern countries. So I see our role as making very advanced products, proving to our customers, to our partners, to our employees, to our societies, that we can actually establish very advanced industry in the Middle East.
Thanks. So if you can elaborate a bit more on which role you play working together, for example, with the telecom operators in providing value-added services. And if you have any case studies you may want to talk about.
Sure. We would very much like to be partners to our customers. We see that changing the relationship from a supplier relation to the customer to a more of a partnership relation where we can see the issues that the customer has and try to resolve them in the most cost-effective manner. This is really very important for us because we believe that we have a very cost-effective setup in Jordan and in many other Middle Eastern countries or African countries. So we can actually produce very innovative products at very reasonable costs. And we try always to discuss with our customers how we can deploy these customers for them. We have around 15, I would say, customers in the telecom area. We have many others in other areas like insurance, like enterprise, education, and so on. But if we look at telecom specifically, we signed a few months ago a very important, a very strategic deal with us with Virgin Mobile, Middle East and Africa, and we have just deployed our customer care and billing system in South Africa for their operation, and we believe that this success could give us a very strategic position to be a partner with this very important group in many other countries as well. We have, of course, many other customers as well in Africa, in Europe, like in Armenia, Karabakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, and some Middle Eastern countries as well.
Just for commodity, if you pass the microphone to Mr. Girish. Mr. Girish, in the model of Tech Mahindra, which type of partnerships you develop together with the telecom operators or other verticals, whether it's banking, together with telecom operators, given your focus on the industry, together with banking or e-commerce or others? Can you share with us some of your experiences?
Sure. So we've got, from the telco perspective, what we propose to do is always a sell-with model with the telcos. And we look at joint engagements where both Tech Mahindra and the telco can actually go and approach an enterprise customer for various solutions. The solution that we have currently seen primarily in the market, which is interesting to most of the telcos, fits into the mobility, the analytics, and the security space. Cloud is something which is just catching up, and there is just focus starting to develop. So on the mobility space, there are a number of trials or proof of concepts that you may call that we are working out with operators across Middle East and Africa. These are on mobile-based workforce management, Salesforce automation kind of application. And as Peter said, there is also a demand for big data from the enterprise, which the telco can start looking at monetizing, because investments are big and it may not be viable for the enterprise to deliver. The other thing which we are also starting to see is what I would call as managed security operations. So telcos are actually looking at deploying SOCs, and these are being used by enterprises. So enterprises basically provide are basically being provided a pay-per-use model. Now, one more area which we are looking at very seriously is what I would call as a solution response center, because a lot of telcos get RFPs from their enterprise customers, but they don't really have the bandwidth or the technical know-how at this stage on how do you put in a winning proposition. So Tech Mahindra works with a number of operators to put what is called as an end-to-end solution response, and then works as a partner with the telcos to help sell the overall solution as well.
Thanks. Peter, we were talking even over lunch before about comparison between markets that are very close, although they are very different from each other, Middle East and Africa, for example. There is, and talking about innovation, there is some innovation coming from Africa. For example, the famous M-payment platform of M-Pesa, or a lot of things that companies like MTN are doing, like M-insurance, M-banking, and so on. As you travel also in the region and in Africa, how do you compare the two regions? Do you see the same level of innovation and in the Middle East as in other parts that you cover? Mr. Girish before was referring to limited competence in some of the operators for certain areas, and of course we will address it later with Mr. Yousef. But what's the point of view of Cisco and yourself?
So innovation can take a number of forms, and often when we talk about innovation, we think only about products. Is this a new product that I haven't seen on the marketplace before? And certainly across Africa, there's lots of examples of innovative products and solutions. But as we were saying at lunchtime, I believe part of the reason is that we mustn't forget that Africa is an incredibly large, incredibly diverse continent. And the differences between South Africa and Malawi or Nigeria and Egypt are pronounced. I believe there is innovation in the Middle East as well, but it's not just product innovation. Very often it's innovation around business models or new ideas. One case study that I'll share with you that we're fairly familiar with, some of you may have seen that Do launched a new business called Data MENA, which is around leveraging the telecom free zone in Dubai to form the base for an international voice and data transit business. You may not or may be aware that prior to that, if you were sitting in Dubai trying to access content on a server here in Jordan, your request probably bounced off an internet exchange in Amsterdam or London. That adds to the cost of the transit of that data. It affects the quality of service of that data, and it makes it at risk of interruption to undersea cables and the like that are continually getting damaged. So we worked with Do to try and innovate around a way of solving this problem. And the innovation was not around a product or a particular solution, but around the creation of a completely new business. And I think that's one good example of when we talk about partnering with our customers, we were involved in every aspect from the creation of the initial vision right to developing the financial case, presenting it to the investment committee and setting up the business. So I think there is innovation in both parts, but probably Africa innovates more around the product and service because of the diverse nature of the customer base. And in the Middle East, we're seeing a lot of innovation with many of our customers around entering new markets or new business structures.
Thanks. Mr. Yousef, you're part of a group that historically has been leading innovation in the region as Zain. There was some comment before on the limited capabilities or competence in some of the operators in the region, for example, as related to B2B value proposition. How do you see your group position in terms of innovation and formulation of new services and internal competence, and how you are building those internal competence?
Okay, thank you. I do believe Zain is not apart from the telecom sector across the world. What we have adopted in our group is really bringing whatever adding value to our customers and whatever service and solution, we are trying to bring it the fast and the areas to the market. Our vision as a group is really to be the first in terms of deployment, to be innovative as well, and to come up with certain solutions to our customers based on our creativity, not based on the international standards. And there are too many initiatives out of that. One of them is the One Network approach that have been adopted years ago, and is still working and really showing great value to our customer base across the whole Zain operations. Other things as well, we have adopted many solutions by ourselves, and I don't want to promote some of the local companies here, but we have done a lot of services and innovations as well on the local level, and we came up with unique services to the market. Again, our positioning in terms of innovation, you cannot today live just being a dumb pipe. Yes, you have to create certain value on top of that. You need to leverage in your partnership with the local providers and with the global ones as well to come up with certain unique flavor to your customers.
Thanks. Mr. Samer, on your side with your organization, which you have a more focus on customer care and VAS and roaming services, also as your organization, which type of collaborative or partnership models are you trying to develop together with the telecom operators or other players? And then we will ask the audience some specific questions on this topic.
Well, with our customers, usually the model is we provide the service and the technology. Now, specifically with the local telcos like Zain, Orange, and Omnia, we have more collaboration in the sense that, as Yousef said, they provide unique services, or they come up with unique services, and they discuss them with us, and then we could go and develop it for them. Or we spend a big part of our revenue on R&D, as I mentioned earlier, to come up with new services that can either generate new revenue, streams of revenue for the operator, or make it more efficient. And we discuss it with the we collaborate a lot with the Jordanian operators to develop and promote these services, and then promote and distribute the service outside Jordan. So these are the collaborative models we have with the telcos here.
Thanks. There are a couple of questions to ask the audience that let me ask to put them on the screen. The first one. The first question is about industry models that can be developed in the ICT sector within the players that operate in the sector. Let's think about new services like e-commerce, mobile banking, or mobile advertising. The question is, which industry models are best suited for the development of the ICT sector? Number one is a cooperative model between telecom operators and service providers, like financial institutions and telecom operators developing together a new proposal, a new proposition. Option number two, telecom operators leading the development of new services and new value proposition. This implies that the telecom operators, and this is mainly focused on the region, so this implies that telecom operators have the competence and the capability, like the case of mobile banking, M-Pesa, as we have been talking before, or others. So this giving trust on the capabilities of the telecom operators to develop those services and to be the leading player for those services. Mobile advertising is another example. Third answer, if the content of the service providers, because they own the content and maybe they are closer to the customers from their point of view or understanding the service of the customers, will be leading the development of new services across multiple platforms, and the telecom operators will only be one of the pipes available, as was said before. And the fourth option is that there are so many new competences that are required that realistically there is room for new players entering the market, whether it's OTT players or else. So the clock has started. If you can choose one of the four options within the remaining 20 seconds. Okay, let's see the answer to this question. Okay, the majority of the participants believe that the best model is the one of a cooperation where the telecom operators and the content service providers needed to find the best cooperative approach. But at the same time, a large percentage, 28% of you believe that there is also room for new players to enter the market, or alternative telecom operators or content providers can lead the development of these services. So I would put back the question to you. What's your comment on that? Do you see in the region either the telecom operators or the financial institutions or the media companies leading that, or you see them work more together, or there is really room for new players to enter the market because of the legacy of the existing operators or players in developing new platforms? And please, any of you can answer.
I do believe none of the four will contribute to develop the ICT sector. So I am not with all the four options here. I do believe in order to grow the sector, you need to have, we are talking about the overall telecom industry in Jordan or in the region as well. In order to grow this, you need to have a visionary work frame that is set by the government and by the country itself, by the regulators themselves as well. Without having a framework and visionary framework, you will never end up with having a developed IC sector. Talking about developed IC sector, you are talking about infrastructure. You cannot go and providing just e-health without having hospitals that are equipped very well. You cannot go with having transportation that is really based on just using cards, plastic cards, without having a transportation system that is really in place. You cannot have as well different payment channels without having the complete ecosystem and infrastructure are in place. So in order to grow this sector, I do believe you need first right policies in place. You need the right visionary work frame and workshops and the framework to be set in advance. And I do believe I was wishing that our government and regulators are present in this session in order to understand that growing the sector is not only depending on growing the number of mobile users as of today. Looking at Jordan as an example, most of the ICT sector revenues are coming from the three operators who are providing voice and data. This is most of the revenues. We are talking about 10-12% of the GDPs are just coming from a service, not from a pure ICT sector. If we want to just take those out, we'll end up in the Arabic region. The ICT sector is just bouncing around zero. It's not anymore there. The reason behind that is really the lack of the right vision to grow the sector. Taking an example, take China. Just 10 years back, India was superseding them in terms of the ICT sector. They copied the Indian model, and today they have a global superpower ICT industry in the world. So in order to develop it, you need really not only the software development companies nor the operators, you need the whole framework to work together in order to develop the sector.
Thanks for your comments. So now we have actually two questions. One, if you agree with this ranking, and second, if you agree with the statement that regulatory bodies have an important role, or government institutions have an important role in setting policies and of course to define the right strategy and vision for the country or even for the region. What's your comment, Peter?
So, I mean, if we look at examples from other parts of the world, that very often early development in any industry vertical tends to be driven by the content and service providers because it's their core business. They're the people who understand it best, and usually the services that they're looking to launch in the early stages are fairly basic. But if we want richness of service as consumers or as businesses, there are many things that only the service providers, the telcos, can bring to the development of an industry solution. only the service providers truly have an understanding of the location of the user. Only the service providers can guarantee end-to-end quality of service, which is becoming increasingly important as we're talking about two-way video collaboration or involving voice in the services. Only the service provider can really guarantee end-to-end security of a solution. And so whilst we saw the likes of Google, I guess, make early strides in the development of many of the online services that people are using, even Google are increasingly realizing that to develop those services to the next stage, they need to work with the service providers or the network owners because of the capabilities that reside in the network and which the likes of Zain or Orange or Omnia control. So I would say that in Europe we took a slightly misguided approach to the whole net neutrality debate, where those capabilities that the service providers have in the network were undervalued. And if we, as a state or a government or a regulator or a policymaker, if they really want next generation fully developed services, they have to find a way of allowing the service providers to monetize that capability that they build into the network, because someone's got to pay for it. And in the Google model, the consumer isn't paying for it. And so I think we will see regulators and policymakers begin to understand that and find a better balance between the content providers and the telecom operators.
Mr. Girish, any comment also? It was very specific on India, so you may want to comment on the ability of the Indian government to set up the right strategy and vision.
I mean, I don't fully agree with what Yousef said, because it requires a number of things to happen. So while regulation is just one part of it, and definitely the regulatory bodies and the government has a role to play in defining, but it is also the service provider and the partners who also can actually fast track some of these activities. And I'll just give you an example. About 6 years ago, we decided to start what is called as a emergency response center in India. This was just a corporate social responsibility that we decided to do in one city. And we went and approached the government, the local government in the city, and we said, we want to set up an ambulance service with some level of automation, with certain SLAs and a small call center, which will enable patients to be transported from any disaster site to a proper hospital within a given set of time. Now, what we did about 6 years ago as a corporate social responsibility was actually adopted as a model by the government, and they implemented that in about 70 cities over India. And they run this entire set of ambulance services right now. So, I mean, if we had probably not done that, we would not have been in that position anyway. And that kind of changed the way the government also looks at what the service providers and what the regional partners want to bring into play. So that was it.
Nael, please.
I strongly believe in a combination of 3 out of those 4 alternatives, plus a little bit of what Yousef has said. I exclude B, because I don't really think that telecom operators should lead development of products or services as such. I really think that they should focus on their core business, and they should look at the customer service and their network and improve the reliability and customer service as much as they can. I strongly believe in a cooperation between the operators and the service providers, software or content or whatever it is. In many cases, you can have new ideas coming up from content or service providers. And in many cases, you have new players, new companies with great ideas coming up as a startup, and they can have a niche product and they can be very successful. I also believe that, especially here in our area, in the Middle East and Africa, governments have a huge part of the economy. And maybe this is part of the reason why we are not really very successful as industrial, let's say, powers or industrial countries. Government should really work with promoting the private economy, not to be part of it. But certainly there is a very big role for promoting companies, especially very promising startups or very promising companies that have a few years of existence and a huge potential. So I can see that there is a role for governments to play, and for example, providing guarantees for loans or providing even money, because venture capital for software companies, for example, in our part of the world almost doesn't exist. So for that, we really need some support from governments.
Well, and admittedly, we are in Jordan. That is for sure one of the most developed country in the region in terms of entrepreneurship and the investment, development of innovation. So definitely, I mean, it's
Yes.
other countries in the region probably,
Right.
they are much behind than Jordan in many aspects.
Certainly, I honestly believe that we have, many other countries in the Arabic countries have Arab Spring or revolutions. Here we have entrepreneurs' revolution. We can see hundreds of new startups of people who have such high ambitions to establish companies. And of course, we have some venture capital, but it is so little. I mean, we're talking about maybe $20,000 to $50,000. That doesn't make a company run or grow in a substantial way. We really need to have much more than that.
Okay, talking about new ideas and new services, I think there is a second question for the audience. Now, just to test about the point of view of all of us regarding the development of new services and ICT, whether we're talking about B2B services or B2C. This is a long list of services that, as all the presentations you heard today or will hear tomorrow, they represent a bit the future. Also, some of them are already available. Now the question is, if you had to invest your own money into any of these services as related to the Middle East, whether it is M-payment, e-commerce, M-health, e-education, mobile advertising, cloud security, and it includes most of the service of which everyone is talking about these days as an area of development, of additional revenues for the operators, of new business models, of new entrants in the market. If you had to invest on that, your own money, which one would you choose? Let's see the answers. Wow, okay. So, e-commerce by far is seen as the big opportunity in the region. And as we know, is one of the least developed as compared to many other geographies, followed by M-health and cloud, and very low, on, a bit surprised on e-education, or even on M-payment. Any comments from you based on your own direct experience in these or other markets?
So I would say that I think there's opportunity in all of those areas, but the one that really surprises me is how low security is, because without security, none of the others are possible. It's a basic fact that if the network is not secure, then none of the others become possible. There's a loss of consumer confidence. And we have seen a rise globally in cyber warfare, cyber security incidents, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So it's not a particularly exciting area, I guess, but if I was taking a cold, hard business decision of where I would put my money, it would be security.
Okay. Any other comments?
Again, I do believe in the short term, especially in this region, and based on the available infrastructure, the investment will be in payment and e-commerce. I do believe in the midterm, we'll go to the M-health and education, Probably advertisement will be with at the short term. Security should come at the early stage as well. So if I want to prioritize them, I will say security, payment, e-commerce, and advertising at phase one, then health and education for the second phase.
Any other comments or anything else that you think is missing in this list of services for the region? There is something missing like big data, of course, so that is another big area of growth.